London renters at crisis point. UK tax changes that could actually improve the situation of landlords, which is going against what we talked about last week about SDLT. New 95% mortgages on offer and residential market review. Sources here are Knight Frank, NRLA, FT and the Property Hub. Number of homes for private rent is contracting across London despite even bigger demand than has ever been. The National Residential Landlords Association, NRLA, is warning that without further action to tackle the supply crisis, renters will see their housing choices eroded even further. According to government data, the number of homes in the private rented sector in London fell by 6% from 23 to 24. Analysis of London councils and Trust for London has warned that properties are leaving the rental market at a much faster rate in the most affordable locations in the capital. The slump in supply comes despite an average of eight people applying for every single rental property. Demand is only set to increase. Limited private rented housing accommodation available. Official data shows the waiting list for social housing in London is at the highest for a decade. It is nearly a 10-year waiting list to get into social housing in London. Things aren't getting any better there. Again, because there's not enough building going on and there's no real policy in charge of it all, I don't think. Now, what about this tax change that's made us actually better off? People always complain about Section 24. This tax allowance has gone, that tax allowance. This is actually one that's made us better landlords, in fact. Nobody was happy when they started phasing out mortgage interest relief at source for individual landlords. That's MIRAS. It wasn't a great thing. Suddenly, though, it became obvious that using SPVs or single-purpose vehicles is a good idea. People moaned about, it'll cost more because the mortgage is a bit more expensive, more paperwork, more bureaucratic, this, that and the other. But 10 years on from when they phased it out, it's actually looking a lot more positive in the marketplace. Because basically when you own a property personally, you get the cash coming in and what happens? Well, it's an extra bit of money every month. And quite often you fritter it away. It comes in with your salary. Limited companies, SPVs, don't allow that. The money sits in the company's account and basically you then put it to work in the company. It's annoying when you want to have a bit of extra spending cash, but it's a better discipline for you. In addition, it forces longer term thinking. It's not just a couple of £100 a month. Succession planning. When you own properties personally, you can pass them to your children without having to split up messy, lumpy assets with lots of different siblings. With a limited company, you can gradually transfer shares to your children over time. You can even freeze the value of your shares, putting all future capital growth outside your estate. So there's heaps of things you can do. Liability shield. If it all goes pear-shaped, you can insure yourself against the property causing you a personal problem. And also it's a mindset thing. It's a case of, this is a company and I'm doing it to make good money for myself. And so having an SPV is a good idea. So MIRAS, mortgage interest relief at source, when it disappeared was a bad thing. And a lot of people moaned about it. However, it's made people focus on building a business as a company and not as an extra bit of income. So it's a lot more positive. Okay, new news out there. Rachel Reeves is launching a permanent mortgage guarantee scheme, according to the Financial Times. Basically, in a Mansion House speech, she basically says that the government's going to guarantee mortgages of 95% for new buyers. Now, what does that mean? It basically means that you apply for a 95% mortgage and the government will back you up, and if you can't afford it, they'll bail out the lender. Sounds like a good plan, but I think in reality, it's going to be the same old thing. It's a replacement for help to buy. It sounds like a good idea, but lenders are still going to look at each individual. And if they've got a dodgy background, they're going to, no, I'm not lending to them. And that is going to be the issue, I think, with it. It may be backed by the government, but the lenders still don't want to get into all that rubbish of trying to get their money back. And in fact, a gentleman called Martin Stewart, founded mortgage broker London Money, called the scheme pointless. It's increased the number of available products, which will help some first-time buyers and other borrowers. But regardless of that, the lenders will still need to proceed with caution, regardless of whether the government has agreed to underwrite some of the losses. And apparently the maximum sum they're insuring is 2.6 billion, which sounds like an awful lot of money to me, but I don't know how much bigger the market is out there, and I don't know how many defaults are going on a regular basis. That's Rachel Reeves. Can you believe her? Let's hope we can. I hope she's trying to do something good for the first-time buyers, to help them get out there. A quick word on the residential market. What's going on is broadly flat. June RICS, Royal Institute of Chart Surveyors, residential market survey came in at plus 3%, which is great. Basically that, you've got the Halifax saying market was up by 2.5%, down from 2.6% the previous month. Sales expectations, people are looking at mortgage brokers are saying they expect sales to go up by plus 6% as opposed to plus 5% last year. So it's a positive outlook out there. And I think, as we said last week, now that we've got through a lot of this Trumpism and the pointless negotiation it seems to be going through, now that's calming down, I think the market will generally start to pick up as mortgage rates become lower. The Bank of England is saying it could be up to 4 cuts over the next year, and that will really help the property market in the UK. So it's broadly flat. As we always say, it's never a bad time to buy, it's never a good time. It's a case of, if you're trying to get a foot on a housing ladder to build something, it's always a good time to buy. But it's no good if you buy in a place that's rubbish. So it's all about caveat emptor. Do your research, make sure it works out okay. So there we go. London renters in crisis. What does that mean? Do a buy to let in London. If you can get one at the right price with a good yield, it's not a bad thing to do. We're doing quite a lot of activity in London at the moment, and it's mostly in hot spots, places like Deptford, Tottenham, those sort of places. There's some good places where you can buy and get a good rental yield. Tax changes occur, and at the time people go, oh, the end is nigh. But the end of MIRAS, Mortgage Interest Relief Source, was deemed as a crisis. But now we're looking at it and going, well, actually, it was pretty positive. So let's not just take everything at face value. Rachel Reeves bringing in these latest changes. Good, let's hope it works and it supports first-time buyers market. What will support the first-time buyers market is building more property for people to buy and for those to rent, specifically in the social housing sector. And the government is wasting so much money. They're saying 38 billion this year will be wasted on supported living. 38 billion. Okay, it's not wasted because people are getting the properties they need. But if it's £172, I think it was, or 74, to put someone into a rented guest house or a short-term accommodation, compared to 16 quid per night, then 90 fees, to go into their own property that's been leased or rented for the government, it's a no-brainer. They need to do more of it. There we go. That's the market wrap. Thank you very much. Hope you enjoyed it. Cheerio.